Voters across in other parts of the world have started voting already. In the UK, the voting station in London is the biggest outside our shores, with 24,000 expats registered to cast their ballots there. Our correspondent Ollie Barrett filed this report from there.
I think it's one of celebration in many ways. A lot of South Africans getting together here at the High Commission. Large queues already. This bit of the queue, by the way, behind me, is actually the back of the queue. It's already snaking around the entire High Commission. Hundreds of people here already. Street cleaners out as well, which is the noise to one side of the camera too, because it's only just gone 7 o'clock in the morning here in London. The polls have just opened, but hundreds and hundreds of people here at the open of polling because they want to cast their ballot. The people at the very front of the queue I spoke to had been here since about 5 a.m. They'd come from Shrewsbury, several hours away from London. They're making a whole weekend of it. They say they stayed overnight. They got here very early in the morning to be first in the queue to cast their votes. There are a lot of Springbok rugby shirts, as you can imagine, a lot of South African flags being waved here, and a lot of officials on hand as well to deal with what is, as you say, the biggest South African voting station in this election. We're told by officials here inside or indeed outside South Africa.
Yeah, patriotic South Africans across the shores. Well, let's now speak to more South Africans living abroad and taking part in the elections. Catherine White is a journalist living in the UK. Estee De Villiers is in Japan. She speaks to us live from Tokyo. Makha Mthembu is based in Los Angeles in the US. Ladies, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Catherine, I'll start with you because we've already seen there with Ollie Barrett showing us, you know, the snaking queues outside the consulate in London. Talk to us about your voting experience. How's it been going for you?
Absolutely, yes. The most easy, straightforward process in terms of voting that I have ever experienced and that I think I ever will experience. And that is mainly because South Africans were not meant to be voting in London yesterday. But because there was a mix-up with the IEC communications and the IEC released a statement on the 22nd of April, which was officially the last day for people to register to vote in London, whether they're traveling or whether they live abroad. And that statement said that people could go and cast their votes on the 17th and the 18th, either or. And in actual fact, the official voting day is not the 17th and 18th, it's the 18th and 19th. So I went through to speak to the media liaison yesterday and I found, oh, do you want to vote? So yes, I actually would like to vote. Why is this the case? And then very quickly realized that there was that mix-up in communication.
Sure. And that's quite concerning, though, because one wonders how many people may have then gotten confused by that mix-up in communication. And Makha, you've talked about, you know, that mix-up in communication in Los Angeles as well. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I am very jealous of what's happening in London. That is not the situation here in Los Angeles. The long and short of it here is that I am not able to vote today, regardless of the fact that I registered in January at the Consulate General. 48 hours before today, I received a call from the Consulate General saying that they received the list from the IEC. And of the people who registered at the consulate, me and one other did not make that list. And as such, we will not be eligible to vote. I then counted and just to clarify, asked, just to make sure I understand you, I, Makha Mthembu, do not have the constitutional right to vote in this year's elections. And he responded with yes. So the mix-up over here are very, very disconcerting. And the fact that 2 of the 3 people, I asked how many of the people that they tried to submit, there is a 2/3 majority that was not able to vote here in Los Angeles. And it makes me wonder how many other people are not able to vote.
So what's the reasoning that you're given as to why you're unable to vote, Makha?
They have not really come through with the reason. When I asked, the consulate tried to make it clear that it was not a mistake that they made, that the mistake happened in South Africa on the IEC side. And when they tried to contact the IEC to try and fix things, they were not met with any sort of communication, which is what I experienced as well when I tried to contact the IEC.
Yeah, that's very, very worrying. Let's talk about you. You're in Tokyo, in Japan, and I was making a joke about how she's, you know, on the phone, out in the street, which is something that you might likely not do very comfortably here in South Africa. But what's your voting experience been like?
Yes, well, it's 5 o'clock here in the afternoon already. So I voted this morning at about 11 o'clock. There's very few people in Tokyo, so it was very, very easy. It was a very jovial, happy atmosphere at the embassy this morning. Just saw so many different South Africans from different walks of life. And yeah, it was very, very nice. They had some cookies and like tea and coffee there. So lots of people were catching up. People had to travel from quite far away because Tokyo is the only place to vote in Japan, which is quite inconvenient. Yeah, I had to take like a 3-hour bus this morning to come and vote. And I know some other people couldn't make it because it's so far and there's only one station. But yeah, I don't think they're expecting quite as many people as the UK. I think it's only about 200 people that will be voting today.
Yeah, but a smooth one for you nonetheless. Let me ask you this, guys, because today, you know, some of you voted yesterday. A lot of you are able to vote today. Makha saying that in Los Angeles, herself and a few others unable to vote in LA. But this is all happening while some parties are, you know, for instance, the AIC and the MK party are launching their manifestos today. How easy is it, has it been, and Catherine, we can start with you. How easy has it been for you to access information on really who some of the front runners are, and how you choose which political party you're going to put your X next to, right? You know, what's that information that's coming to you on how to help you make that decision, Catherine?
Well, there's been no physical canvassing in London whatsoever. Any kind of communication with South Africans who are based here has kind of been online, via email, online events, and those kinds of things. None that I'm aware of. But when I asked people about it, you know, they also said to me, oh, we didn't even know it was elections. And I mean, by chance, you just meet South Africans at Trafalgar Square. Oh, did you vote? Oh, is it voting time? Wait, what? And that was a number of South Africans. So we really haven't seen much canvassing. There's been a lot of frustration about the links and registering and what is the right, you know, when can you register? Where can you register? But once you've found the right link to register with, the process is quite easy. I think the general social media platforms, and I mean, if you're not tuned into what's happening news-wise in South Africa, you're not really going to be seeing much regarding the different parties and candidates.
Yeah, Makha, same question for you. I mean, the sort of information that's getting to you, and how do you make the choice? Unfortunately, you were unable to vote, but I'm sure you went in there with a decision made.
Yes, as a South African abroad, especially in the US, the onus is on you to educate yourself on what is happening in your country, which is a thing that I think we should all be doing, whether or not we are in South Africa. But the onus is on you because the information is not getting to us. So in terms of, that's a similarity between us and London, where no one is canvassing. There's no emails. And in terms of the website, whether it be the Consulate General in Los Angeles or the Consulate General in New York, there's no information about who other candidates are. And there's barely any information on our side on even when to register. This is a thing that I, as South African abroad, am constantly checking on month to month to month of when are South Africans voting, when are we voting? And so I have been educating myself the whole year on what's happening, especially because you don't know what something is unless you're there. So obviously talking to South Africans in South Africa what's happening and making sure I could make the best informed decision today, which now I don't get to make.
Yeah, you know what we're also faced with this particular election, Estee, is that you've got a considerably long ballot paper that you are faced with, right? So talk to me about you know, the information that you're getting, and also just the civic education around the ease of this election for you, but particularly how it was that you make your choice, and are you getting the information that you need?
Yeah, I think here in Japan also we don't really get any news about South Africa from the Japanese media so much. It would just be kind of like very terrible bad news stories usually. So I am looking at South African news sources. I've been looking a lot at Twitter, speaking to a lot of people. I only really knew about registering to vote because of word of mouth, hearing other South Africans speaking about it and being in a WhatsApp group with a group of young South Africans. So I think that's the only way I really knew about what was going on. And yeah, I guess she's so right by saying the onus is on you to educate yourself. So it has been quite difficult to be like accessing information when you're not there. So I guess just speaking to people back home is kind of a good way to also understand what's happening. But yeah, it is very difficult. It's such a big decision to make. And I was quite sad today that I could only really vote for the national. I couldn't vote provincially or municipal, like just for the one. where I know South Africans will get 3 papers. I just got the one.
Well, listen, I think that one thing that's encouraging for all of us is the excitement from all of you guys, even though you've left the country to still want to contribute and build the country. Let me, final questions, and 20 seconds for each of you. Estee, I'll let you have your closing thoughts here on what you want this election to achieve for the country as you look all the way from Japan.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm coming back to South Africa in 2 months. So I'm moving back home. So I'm very invested in South Africa and really, really love South Africa. And I'm feeling so optimistic. I don't know, reading a lot of the manifestos kind of gave me a lot of hope and made me feel like change is possible. And yeah, so I'm feeling very, very optimistic. And sometimes seeing South Africa from the outside can be quite difficult because you feel like it is kind of difficult for people overseas to understand South Africa and the spirit of South Africa. But yeah, that's why I'm very excited to come home. And yeah, I'm very optimistic to see what happens. I hope everybody will go out and vote. And yeah, I'm excited for the news coverage. Thank you guys for your hard work.
Thank you so much for updating us and for voting from all the way from Japan. Makha, what you want this election to achieve?
My birthday is the 12th of September. And anyone who is South African knows that that is the day that Stephen Biko was murdered by the apartheid government. That means that every single year on my birthday, I am reminded that I get to have a life because he did not. Today is a day where I am reminded that this is not what he fought for. We are trying so hard, and it should not be this much work to get your voice heard. And I thank you all for hearing us today. But what I want is for all South Africans to get heard and for all of us to have the rights that we've been fighting for since before most of us were born.
Yeah, 100%, Makha. Thank you for that one. Catherine, your final thoughts, what you want this election to do?
Yeah, I think, I've seen it yesterday as well. There's a huge sense of pride being able to cast a vote. And a lot of South Africans have been saying, you can't really comment. They were saying, it's a political obligation and not just a right to be able to vote, even if you are abroad. Some people on holiday made the effort to register so that they could still cast their ballots.
Yeah.
So there was a sense of pride, people smiling, and yesterday was quite smooth. So I hope the rest of the election, we've got essentially now 3 days of voting as opposed to 1 in South Africa, mainly because yesterday the 17th was added, but there were only about 210 votes in totality for yesterday. So I think how smooth it went, kind of, that you have to take that into account as well. We know we have a history of election ballots, being lost or additional ones being added. It's quite simple. You take your ballot and you put the ballot into envelope A. Envelope A goes into envelope B, gets all sealed up, and then gets transported to South Africa. So I just hope it's a free and fair election.
Ladies, thank you so much for speaking to us and for passionately contributing to the country. Unfortunately, Makha says in Los Angeles she was unable to vote and actually very quite hard sore about not being able to do so. But thank you so much for chatting to us. Makha, of course, speaks about contributions that were made for us to get that all-important vote. And we're going to be